Hi guys, I bought some new paints, Old Holland watercolor paints, and I wanted to show you how I put this paint into the new palette. And I thought it might be a good idea to show you a thing or two that I run into whenever I buy new paints and what I do with it. So let me start by saying that this is a messy job. At least it is for me. I'm quite a messy person. But actually, I begin with setting up a structure. I'm going to paint color swatches for you, just like I did for the Daniel Smith, because I know that you guys really like seeing the color live, and this is where I'm going to do it. So I've structured the colors in the same order that I'm using in my palette. And I'm keeping this, I'm keeping this sheet close at hand because I want to see what places I have to put the paint in. I'm using a very cheap Reeves plastic palette. I have actually got an empty tin box, but I wanted to buy empty half pans for it, and they were so much more expensive. And my experience with this very cheap plastic Reeves palette is very good. I have one that I've been using for over 10 years now, and it still works and it's still lovely, and you know, I'm going to keep using this. So these cost me €2.95 each, which is incredibly cheap compared to the half pans. Right, so I've got a few colours here. I've got Scheveningen Yellow Light, I've got Scheveningen Yellow Deep, Indian Yellow Brown Lake Extra, Coral Orange, Scheveningen Red Light, and Scheveningen Red Deep. Those are the colours I've done so far. You will notice that I have toothpicks here. I use those because I bought these paints cheap. I had a few of these, but all the rest I bought cheap from somebody who bought the entire stock of a shop that went bankrupt. And as lovely as it is financially to do such a thing, you will notice that some of the colors have become old, and when they get old, the binder separates from the colors, and sometimes it takes a little stirring, which I do with a toothpick. I also use a toothpick to flatten paints out. In this case, the Scheveningen Red Light was so thick and sturdy that it just stood upright. So I used a toothpick to flatten it out to make sure that it actually fits flatly into the compartments. You will also notice I've got pliers here. That is because I ran into some paints, and I'll show you right now, that I've now run out of. This is my old stock, and I'll just zoom in because, you know, it's a very nasty job on the fingertips to squeeze all of this out with your fingertips. So what I've just decided to do, and it actually works, is to use my pliers for the job. And it just squeezes that little bit more out. Look what it squeezes out. I mean, this paint can easily help me paint 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 times, if not more. You know, I'm Dutch, I'm cheap. Okay. So then I throw this away. When I run out, I mark the specific color with a little cross on the color chart that says that it needs replacing if I want it. Right, so I'll fast forward for you now until I run into another color that's separated, where the binder is separated from the paint, and I'll show you how I go about that. paint is probably a color that's pretty old, I think. I'm not sure, but when a paint comes from the tube this thick, then usually it's been in the tube for a pretty long time. This is not a very popular color, I'd say. So what I do is I take a toothpick and I make it wet, and I gently tap on the paint to flatten it out as much as I can and put it back just a little bit. I waste as little paint as I can, and before closing the tubes I clean them as well as I can. It's not very bad to buy old paints because I let them dry anyway. When when a cap sticks to the tube, I will open it with my teeth. Be careful if you do that, because you might occasionally have a mouthful of harmful pigments. So this is not, you know, a very good way of doing it. It's not a healthy way of doing it, although I have to say it only happened to me once. I had a really blue mouth for a little while. Here we have a color that is separated. The binder is separated from the paint a bit, so I'm not going to squeeze in too much. And before I let this dry, I'm going to take a toothpick again. You can make it wet. And the reason I make it wet is to make sure that not very much of the paint sticks to my toothpick. And you just gently stir it. And the only thing you have to be really careful with is that you don't contaminate the neighboring colors. And this is actually one of the lighter blues. The manganese blue hue deep is not a very dark color, but you can see the intensity of the pigment. I mean, none of these colors look light. That is one of the characteristics of Old Holland paint. Scheveningen Blue Light, one of the lighter colors in the collection, blues. And you can already tell here on the cap, you can see binder agent coming out. So this one has separated, yes. And pretty hugely, I think. Oh, it's okay, it's not that bad. So if it has separated, then don't put too much paint in there, because you do want to stir it a little bit. So toothpick, make it wet, and then gently stir in the binder agent. into a new problem I've never had before, and that is that the cap was not on the tube good enough. So this has dried up completely, this end. So I will have to do what I've never done before. I will have to open the tube on the back side. So I just have a pair of scissors and I cut off a little corner on the back side. Don't forget to clean your scissors when you do. And you need a pair of pliers. Oh, this is really bad. This paint comes out almost completely dry. I've never had this before. So I'll add just a little bit of water to the bottom of the box, hoping this little lump of nearly dry paint will... This never happened to any paint before that I've used. So I'm guessing this has been in the store for a long time before it found its way to me. It sticks like crazy though, so that's good news, I guess. And oops, I'll just get the rest out with the toothpick. Want to waste as little paint as I can. So just try to flatten it out. And probably it's still very usable. I have to say, with watercolor paints, no matter how bad the situation a tube was in when I got it, I've never been not able to use it. So I'm folding the tube back, closing it back up as good as I can. But maybe next time I'll have to just cut it open all the way to get the paint out. Now this has happened to me buying paints from maybe old stock, but this can happen to you too when you buy in an art supply store, because some colors tend to some colors are not sold as often as other colors. So it doesn't really have to be a problem. Of course you want fresh paints that, you know, that flow right out of the tube. But if you don't get them, then you can still work with these. So it's not, you didn't really throw away your money. Although of course this is a bit messier than if the paint just flows straight from the tube into your palette. But if you have this with acrylics, you can throw them away. If acrylic paints dry up like this, then you know there's no, you can't use them anymore. But that's the cool thing about watercolors, you know, it's just, they last such a long time, so it's absolutely worth it to buy the best quality that you can afford, because they will last literally for decades. These are very small tubes, and I usually fill up my pellet compartments with it 3 times. This is only 5 milliliters or 6. I think it's 5. It doesn't say, but I think it's 5 or 6 milliliters, so it's very, very tiny tubes, but they go a long way, especially these, because they've got so much pigment in them. Some people find it annoying. But you know, if you work in illustrative style like I do, then this watercolor paint is fantastic. Because illustrative style usually is after very vibrant colors. My God. There's a lot of paint in the cap, so I'll try to get that out before I throw it all away. Because one drop of this paint seriously goes a long, long way. But if you don't clear out the cap, it will stick to the tube next time you want to open it. And that can be bloody annoying. The reason why I put this warm grey, it's Old Holland Warm Grey Light, why I left a space open is because this red, Persian Indian red, might stain incredibly, and I don't want to mix with the warm grey. And I'll show you the 2 palettes that I've just filled with paints. 39 different colors. I'm going to make color swatch for the color swatches for these in another video, and I'll show you how intense the colors are. You can already see that in the blue and dark regions there's a lot of dark colors that will end up looking so unbelievably much brighter on paper. So see you in the next video.